All right, so that was David Thorpe. Go read all his rookie rankings today on Insider. We're going to go right away to our next guest. It's Jeff Skinwade, who is a Mavericks man with a lot of really interesting insight. Let's bring him on. How are you doing, Jeff?
Hey, doing well. Good to be here, guys.
So, what the hell is going on in Dallas? Are just the wheels off? Are they screwing them back on? What's happening?
Well, I think the wheels are going to be off for a couple of weeks here. Obviously, they're not really the same team that defended the title. Everyone's made a big deal about losing Tyson, and Tyson had a huge impact here, defensively on the floor. But he was also, whatever you want to call it, heart and soul, spiritual leader, whatever sort of cliche you want to throw out there about that kind of thing. He was definitely that. And he was also the type of dude that he would say exactly what needed to be said to Dirk or say exactly what needed to be said to Kid on those occasions. You have to say those things. And if someone's going to do that, it needs to be a guy that delivers on the floor, and Tyson did all that. Obviously, J.J. Barea was probably the only guy on this team that could, on a consistent basis, break down the defense, get down inside, and create things for other guys. We saw what he did during the playoffs. And another guy that I think they really, really miss, and not a lot of people are big on this, but to me, Deshaun Stevenson getting away for 1 year at the amount of money he got away, I think that's a real killer because he made a difference. And you can look at a stat sheet and go, what are you talking about? The guy, what are you talking about? He made a difference. And especially
Right.
defensively, they were able to switch all kinds of screens out on the perimeter. So right now, they're trying to not only work new guys in offensively, they're so far behind defensively where they need to be because it's not a collection of good individual defenders. It was a great team defense. And not only that, it was
Right.
orchestrated by Dwayne Casey, who's now the coach in Toronto. So anytime the local guys have asked Coach Carlisle about, working the guys in offensively, Lamar, what's he going to do? He immediately brings up defense. And one other thing to look at
Mm.
is, getting your team defense set. That's one thing. But in these first two games, any turnover's been a bucket the other way. And I realize Miami is off the chain in that regard. And obviously Denver was last year. I think they'll be
Right.
that way this year. But the Mavericks in the first half against Denver the other night had 5 turnovers that led to 10 points. By the end of the night, that was up in the 20s. So they've got to make sure that they don't turn the ball over because their transition defense is horrible right now, and they haven't gotten their team half-court defense set. So honestly, I think they're about 2 weeks away from really being worth a damn.
And for fans, this has got to be one of the weirdest off season for fans after a championship. Not only is your kind of publicity and the hype and everything hijacked by the lockout, but then when you come back, you don't even really look like the team that was so celebrated and was so much fun to watch. What are people in Dallas thinking right now? I mean, are people invested in the team? Is it some sort of hesitance? Like, what's going on?
It's a weird fan base here, and here's what I would compare it to. You guys are all probably too young to have kids. If you have a 4 year old or a 5 year old, I've got a 4 year old son. You kind of walk around the house at all times with your hands in front of your crotch because you never know when your son's going to run up and rack you. I mean, that's the reality of having a 4 year old son. Dallas sports fans are always walking around in fear of being racked. Okay, what happened in 2006 here was absolutely brutal. I mean, it was brutal. If you can imagine, you're up 2 games on the Heat, you're 6 minutes away from being up 3 games, and you lose that finals. And so Maverick fans, man, they just kind of went into a shell. And this is really, it's a football community, and the Cowboys are 15 years removed from being relevant. So, and then until really the last couple of years, the Rangers had been an absolute train wreck. So, what happened last June, honestly and truly, the guy I do the radio show with, Ben Rogers, he says that right now everybody is fat off the fruit meat of the championship, and they're all sitting around and they're completely, satiated. And it's, I don't know, do I drink more wine? What are we doing here? So the fan base isn't, they're not really sure what to make of what's going on right now. Everybody was very disappointed that specifically Chandler and Barea weren't coming back. That was because those were not only guys that made a difference, they were fan favorites and all that type of stuff. But I think that there's right now the smarter basketball fan realizes what the Mavericks are doing, and they're going to have $20+ million of cap room next summer, and this is not going to be a bad team. I realize, Hollinger's written him off after 2 games. That's fine. I've seen Dirk play his whole career. I've honestly and truly, I think I've seen every single professional game that he's played. And there's no way that a Dirk Nowitzki team, if he's healthy, is not going to be competitive. Right now, Dirk is nowhere near where he normally is in January, but much less December. Jason Kidd is a competitive player. There's plenty of good players on this team. This will be a good competitive team, but the smarter basketball fan realizes why the Mavericks made the moves they did, and they're very hopeful. I don't think anybody believes we're going to get Darren Williams and Dwight Howard. That's total pipe dream stuff. But you're talking about, with that much cap room, there's any number of deals that can be made or players that can be acquired to keep Dirk's, let's just say, the tail end of his prime open a little bit longer than if they had pushed all the way beyond the cap to the luxury tax and kept this team together.
Skid, I've got a professional segue for you. From rack to yak, right. How does nobody get footage of Sean Williams throwing up all over the court when we have 30 cameras in the building tracking everything? I mean, what can you describe what happened the other night with him just throwing up all over everybody?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question, and really keep in mind that for the broadcast guys, this is still preseason as well. So right now, one thing that we have learned from our mistake is that yes, you have to have one dedicated Sean Williams cam at all times, because now we know it's possible that he could throw up at any given moment. We were talking, it's hard to do a broadcast in a game where you're getting run out of the gym. And the Mavericks had, been run out of the gym in the first half of 2 home games. So you're trying to figure out things to talk about. Sean Williams, who I don't know if you guys ever seen the show My Name is Earl. He looks like a character on that show named Crabman. So we were having fun calling him Crabman. And then he was extremely active. Like he saved the game for us. I mean, who knows what banal garbage we would have been talking about had Sean Williams not checked into the game and saved the day for us. So we were having a blast with him. Alley-oops, blocking shots. It was for a lifeless team. They'd been lifeless for 7 quarters of NBA basketball. He came out there and Sean Williams is suddenly the story. So that was very cool. And, he was in the D-League last year. And, I don't know how much D-League ball you guys watch. I've, called a couple of those games on the radio side. And it's very difficult for me to evaluate talent in a D-League game because it's usually guards trying to do what they, guards do well in the D-League. It's tough to even get post touches in the D-League. So the times I'd seen Sean Williams, I didn't know what to expect. I'll tell you this, in that fourth quarter, he looked infinitely better than I've ever seen him look. I mean, he's from this area. He went to Mansfield High School here. So I've seen him play a number of times over the last, 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. He looked infinitely better than I've ever seen him look. And I think he just got out there, and they were going to him, and he was active, and I just don't think he was quite ready conditioning-wise. And who knows what seafood buffet he hit up earlier in the day. But we're all very, very compelled with the Sean Williams story now, and who knows what gold he's going to harvest for us next.